Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. We are here to listen what we've learned from the survey we prepared some months ago in order to discover what happened from the last year in artistic perfumery world due to the pandemic. Well, let me say that our scope with this survey was to interview two big groups of audiences. The first one is called the B2C one. So we wanted to speak to gain information from the end user, from the fragrance lovers. And the second one that is called the B2B one is the one made of all professionals of the world of artistic perfumery, speaking about brands, retailers, but also influencers, journalists, or PR. Well, respondents were about 500. That it's not a huge number, but we'll see that together, considering that surveys were filled in, were attended by people who have a relation with the artistic perfumery world. What we collected, all the data, are really significant. So let me introduce you to our consumer, to his ID. So we are speaking about mainly women that are from 36 to 55 years old. The majority of respondents were from Italy, and half of them have a degree. Well, going deeper in their habits, in their interest in perfumes, half of them wears only niche perfumes. And that's the reason why I said just 1 minute ago that they are completely in target with our audience. And another huge group, almost the 40%, wear both niche and commercial perfumes. Also, looking at how many perfumes they buy per year, and considering what happened last year, so the pandemic, we have an interesting number because more than 40% used to buy from 2 to 3 perfumes, but an interesting number, so more than 50% buy from 4 to more than 7 perfumes. If we go deep in what is their feeling, their relation with the specific artistic perfumes, we found out that the majority part, so 82 of 100 were artistic perfumes even during the lockdown, to feel better, to have a sort of escape. And a big quantity of them, we're speaking about the 57%, choose the niche ones because they give them more pleasure than the commercials one. Also speaking about the expense on this kind of products, despite any expectation and the probably difficult economical situation that people might have in the past years, we found out that the expense in niche fragrances hasn't changed, or most of all has increased. That is I think a really good signal for the sector and for this world. Well, again, they are not looking simply for perfumes to wear to themselves, but we have a quite big amount of respondents. We are speaking about almost the 70% that were looking and also buy home fragrances, so products that help them for creating a cozy place, a calm place where to stay specifically during the period that was called the lockdown. But what happened outside the cozy place, outside the nest? Well, we found out that the majority part, that is a quite encouraging number, almost 80% of respondents kept going to physical stores, because you remember that perfumery stores could stay open even during the lockdown, and they also try to buy them online. What is interesting here is that we found out a sort of balance between the online shopping and the brick and mortar one. So even if the situation was not the most safe one, or the most comfortable one, consumers that attend our service told us that they kept doing both things, so the online shopping and the physical one. Well, some of them said that they were a little bit hesitant about the shopping experience offline, so about going to the physical stores. And we found out that the reasons are mainly three. So the health one, because also they wanted to find online better price, but some of them also felt a little bit pressure to buy something, so they prefer to not going inside the physical stores in order to discover new products. Well, these data are extremely relevant, because they told us that it's necessary to go deeper in that, and it's necessary also to find the best way to make these fragrance lovers use and comfortable in going inside the stores. What about the good news? So apart from all people that said that were hesitant in going to these stores, we have the majority part of them, as I said, almost the 80%, that in spite of everything, they decided to went there for discovering new fragrances or for testing products. And again, what is it's a positive message is that almost everybody gave us a positive feedback about the safety situation they found in stores. The 87%, for example, told us that everybody in the staff of the store wore the mask properly, or they felt safe, they felt not worried of being inside the store. And if we think that the experience in the stores, even before pandemic, but especially after that, is increasing its importance, that an extremely relevant information. Well, we also investigated about products. We created this new label, the product 2.0, because people, our respondents, also told us that they were looking for different services apart from the simple perfume bottle. We found out that, for example, an interesting percentage of participants took part in video consulting sessions with beauty or perfumery experts. Well, I know that 16 is not a huge part of the total, but what is really relevant here is that the all people of these 16% said that they were extremely satisfied and they would do it again. And moreover, we have a few number of people that decided to attend a video consulting session with a fee. And almost all of them declared that they would do it again in future. We went deeper with this new label, this product 2.0 label, to understand better where was the interest. So were we speaking about online courses or kit or both of them? Well, mostly users were interested in generic online courses about perfumery, or again in buying olfactory kit of raw material. That is a theme connected with also the interest in sustainability of the products. And what happened is that only the 10% of them did the step first and decided to purchase these services like the online courses or the olfactory kit. It's an interesting point for our discussion to understand what happened in the 90% of cases, because again, it's not a negative message. It's something that show us the potentials that in this industry can be used in order to move the whole part of that 90%, or maybe for the beginning just a part of them, in not simply trying or having an interest in these kind of services, but also in purchasing them. We also investigated about olfactory families in order to better understand if taste during pandemic change. And well, one of 3 respondents said that it doesn't change, so nothing happened to the preferences about olfactory families. And the most appreciated ones were the citrus one, the oriental, the flora, and the woody. We'll speak again about this data because we also matched it with what professionals said. Staying in the product part, we wanted to know what is the feeling of this group of audience about samples and discovery set. Well, even if the amount of people that prefer the traditional type of product, the traditional formats, we have an interesting number of people that want to try also the samples and the discovery sets. They mostly bought them from online perfumeries or directly from the brand. What's interesting in the chart that is visible below is that samples were bought most than discovery kit, but we know that the reason why we have this data is probably that creating a discovery kit is more include an higher effort for brands, for retailer. So probably maybe the offer on that was lower than the sampled ones. We have also an audience that is quite active in online communities about artistic perfumery. And what is interesting is that just few of them are are in these communities in order to find a better price or buying samples or perfumes, because most of them want are there for knowledge reason. They want to be informed about new products, about new launches, and most of all, they want to share their passion with other fragrance lovers. Let's move, let's do a jump into the other audience we speak with. Well, we can see a sort of similarity in the ID because we have mostly women that are, again, mostly from Italy, between 36 and 55 years old. Almost the majority part of them were store owners or employees, but we also had represented the other professionals of this world. We immediately asked them, specifically to brand, retailers, and other professionals, how do they act in their business in terms of opening a new e-shop in e-commerce. And we have an interesting number here because 37% of respondents said that they didn't have one previously and they created a new one. What is interesting here is that just a small part of these professionals kept open the online shop only and decided to close the other one. But even with the others, even with all professionals to do a sort of half and a half solution, we found out that they were they look further and they try to find a sort of resistance form to the pandemic and to the restriction and the rules. The fact that 72% of them started to do home delivery and almost 50% tried the service of phone reservation of the products and the pickup in store is an extremely positive signal because it shows how these kind of professionals were open, started or keep being open to these, let's call them ancillary services to the B2C audience. Again, calling them ancillary services, maybe it's not correct since these are services that today makes the difference. We again ask them how they feel, how they behave with the fact of having maybe the online store and also the brick and mortar one, and how they find these two words in the total scenario. And what we've found out is that most of them think that there should be a balance. For example, 72% think that the brick and mortar, the offline shopping will never be overpassed by the online one. But at the same time, a huge amount of respondents said that it's time to think about the online sales because it will grow and it will grow significantly. Well, again, thinking about the situation in store, we found out that a huge amount of participants, because it's more than the 60%, decided to increase the niche fragrances offer instead of the masstige one. And again, the 62, thinking about the indie brands that are gaining ground, decided to introduce also these new independent brands. And again, we think that this is a very important, a positive message for all brands that are no well known today, but they are trying to find their place in this new market. We decided to went deeper and investigate also in the business routine of this audience. So finding out how they act, how they use social media, for example, how they do, if they took part in event, and well, let's say the business routine. And the majority part of them told us that they work with advertising on social media, and they also used to stay present in communities, in online communities, in order to be closer with their final consumer. The important message here is that an interesting number, so the 33% of respondents confirmed us that the return of their investment was successful. And if we think that doing an investment in online tools, online channels, not always as a return of the investment in 1 year or simply months, that is quite irrelevant data. Again, we ask them how they feel about priorities, so what they prioritize in their communication during the pandemic. Well, if we compare this data from what we've learned from other analysis we did in the past, we see that there is more interest in what is behind the perfume. So the description of raw materials, the olfactory notes, and there is no a strict focus simply in the brand or the product itself. Probably because brands have understood that it's important to tell consumers what's behind it and not simply what it's written in the label of their products. We found out that even the more resilient ones started to use new digital platforms. The most used one were Instagram and Facebook, but we can see also here from the chart that an interesting number of our respondents started to use also, let's call them, technical tools, for example, Zoom or Meet or LinkedIn, platforms that are that were and also are today necessary for being in contact with the team, with colleagues, with the staff, but also with the final customer. As I told you before, we wanted to investigate what was the feeling also connected with the olfactory families. So we've seen that for consumers, the citrus, the floral one were the most preferred ones. We ask retailers and brands which kind of families they sold mostly, and apart from the first two, so the floral and the citrus one, we've learned that also the gourmand one, a sort of new olfactory family for consumers, but well known for the industry, where was well sold and well proposed to final consumers. Moving to the other part of B2B audience that it's made of journalists and influencers or PR. We wanted to ask them what we've asked also to the other group, to the brand and retailers. So what they do, what was their business routine, their communication during pandemic. And we see that here again, the interaction with final users was on the top. Most of them, almost everybody, decided to post video content because we know that this kind of media probably are more interesting, are more engaging for users online, but also decided to be present, to take part at the perfume communities. And as you probably remember, this perfectly matches with the presence of final consumers in these perfumeries communities online. Again, we asked them which were their priorities during the pandemic. And it's interesting to see that also here, as we saw for brands and retailer, they were not focused on simply products or brands, but again, they wanted to tell, to promote what was behind the product, the olfactory notes, for example, or the raw material, or again, the brand, but connected, but related to their history, not simply with the noun itself. Again, we investigated about the olfactory family that were liked and promoted, and we have a new entry here. The green one is let's say, the most promoted one among journalists and influencers, and this is a quite relevant thing because we know that journalists and influencers, this kind of professional, are probably the main ones that tell us what will happen in the future, that tell us the forecast about artistic perfumery. And closing my presentation, we wanted to show you the difference between the demand, so the public, and what effectively is the supply. We see that there is a combination of demand by B2C, offer and promotion around the citrus olfactory family, and something changed with the other ones. For example, the gourmand was the one of the most offered one by retailers, one of the most promoted one by influencers. But at the same time, it is still growing among the B2C audience, probably because they simply need to know more about unknown olfactory families, and they need to be supported in approaching this part. And thank you for being with us. I am leaving the stage again to Silvio Levi, and again, thank you.
Thank you so much. A brief note that I have to give is about the family oriental that someone, especially my colleague, was praying me to communicate that would be better to call Ambery for a lot of reasons. So unfortunately, we prepared the documentation before, and so that is a little note. Now I would like to let Marco to give the comments about this data, and so I leave the stage to Marco Ricchetti. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you to you, Silvio. Let me start again, from the trivial world of economics. Well, it's quite impressive, the numbers in terms of the increase of purchases. Uh, well, Alicia has mentioned 27, I think, or something like that, that increased actually their purchases in the B2C section. But if you make just a small addition and you add those that has maintained stable, the purchases, you get to a striking 70% of people that either maintained the level of expenditure or increased it during the worst crisis, economic crisis we had since World War II. That's quite. I mean, before this, I remember the oil crisis in '73, but it was not such big event, or the financial crisis in 2007, 2008. But this is by large the most, let's say, the worst crisis. So what we can say that's first, we are talking about a sector that is based on the satisfaction of personal well-being or self-recognition, is less show off or talking to the wide audience as it is, for example, for the fashion business, so that's quite an interesting point that I think that should be well considered for the future, and a part of being let's say a perfect school book case for demonstrating how during a crisis you have winners and losers. And so this is the first point that is quite interesting. The second one I took some note is the fact that 1/3, 34%, if I'm not mistaken, of people has decided to buy to still buy in stores. Well, 60% are Italian, so fortunately perfume stores were not closed during the pandemic. So one could ask, is it a high number or a small number? Well, let's say that first of all is higher than those that bought only online. That's quite interesting, I think. So it means that in a way it's a good number. It's not a bad, good news, not bad news. However, if I took what was on the slide, that 43% of people were also buying online because of some convenience in delivery. I mean, it was not mentioned clearly in the slide if it was also for good prices. But anyway, if it is about delivery, I totally agree with what Alicia said, that the delivery element is not an ancillary service anymore. I mean, I'm just making some, I have to confess, some buying of not perfumes on Amazon today. The main reason was not price. I was able to buy best price on another platform, but the idea was to have quick and shielded and sure delivery. And this is why I decided to buy on these platforms. Last two couple of points. One is about community economics. 44% of people that is in the communities, 70% of those for passion, super for whatever marketing or anyway cultural strategy. I think, however, looking at the list of the actions that are were presented, I think we need to think more out of the box. You make do on the digital space much more than you do in stores. For example, the sessions about training or these type of things. You have to think totally out of the box. I remember that someone that it is in this panel organized in the past connection between between music and perfumes. Why not to take advantage advantage from the digital space to try to cross Spotify and creating playlists or video playlists on YouTube. Well, you have plenty, I think, of opportunities to demonstrate the link between the perfumes and other artistic forms. So again, apparently there is an interesting perspective in front of us. Maybe we need to push a bit more our creativity in marketing strategies. Well, that's all from my side for the moment.
Thank you so much, Marco. Is now the turn for Chiara that finally we listen. And
Thank you, Silvio. I think that this result drive us a really positive message about consumer habits because we discovered the purchase propensity hasn't changed, increased, and our consumers supports local shops. Let me return also for the need of information of our consumers. I'm referring to search patterns. Before we see that a lot of people look for information about where to apply perfume, how to wear perfume. So I think that there is a basic level of information that must be addressed, especially by shops. I think that consumers, especially new buyers or people that begins to become passionate about niche perfumery, needs to add this information directly in the shops, and of course independent perfumery and retailer must also address this need with their digital communication. And also it is a good point to entertain people and create fun for people and engagement. Another important message, I think, is that from seeing the chart in which we see olfactory families and notes, we can see that we don't have a prevalent olfactory family, a prevalent note. We studied also the respondents' answers, and we found out that the people, in some cases, indicates as new families, citrus families, leather families. So they put together very different notes, and this is a good message if we relate it with the propension of people to experiment. And okay, sorry, I had information about my. Okay, I think that maybe you can hear me better now. Okay, I was telling about the fact that we don't see a prevalent olfactory note, and we can refer this data with the propension of people to experiment. This is, I think, another important message that must be considered by independent perfumery. They really need to make possible to people to experiment, and they can do it with samples. From this pandemic, for the first time, the sense of smell was really important. We have seen this in the anosmia chart, and we can see that maybe companies in the industry needs to verify the potential of olfactory training kits. The importance of smell, it's something that will last, because people discover that perfume are important for relieve the situation and the anxiety, and for the fact that perfume permits to travel when travel was forbidden. So I think that is an important positive thing about the period that we suffered, that was really complicated. So
I leave the stage to Karen for her insights.
Okay, I'm gonna start by sharing my observations on the B2C part of the survey. So, you know, as my colleagues here have commented, I think it's a really positive sign to see that over 60% of the respondents admitted to buying 2 to 7 fragrances in the period, because to me, that seems like a lot of fragrance. For a B2C person. So it shows that there's a loyalty to fragrance and clearly an interest, and it has a value to them. We also see that fragrance became a bit of a ritual, and the feedback in terms of buying home product and candles and such, it's totally in line with what's happening on a worldwide basis. So the trends that we see are in line with what's happening in the world. Then I would say also, it's to me, it's very encouraging to see that 34% of the people are looking to buy in their local shops. Because I think, you know, during the pandemic, so many people lost their livelihood. And I think that it shows a type of solidarity where people want to support the small business owner and to keep them afloat, and that this is their preference in terms of when they're going to go in the store. If they're going to go into a physical store, that these are the stores that they want to support. I think it's also encouraging to see that 86% are saying that they feel safe in the store. So again, you know, this is a good sign, especially when you think that the survey was taken when we were, most of Europe at least, was in the middle of a third lockdown. So, but the opportunity is because we see then that 57% said that their in-store experience was not satisfying. So this is key to me, is that you know, we have some work to do in terms of improving the in-store experience. And you know, honestly, as a kind of investigative journalist, I went into stores in February before we went into our third lockdown and had my experiences. And then I went in again just a few weeks ago when I had my, you know, when we just got out, to see what the experience was. And quite frankly, in most cases, it was not better. So there's a lot of work to be done. And as Chiara just mentioned, it's in terms of, you know, you have to go, you really want to go in the store to smell the fragrance, but you have to go in there for more than that. There has to be more reason. There has to be discovery. There has to be entertainment, education. It's a personalized experience. It's a service. And if you've had good service, then you know that this can be done. It's not that it's not doable. It's doable. So I think that there's still some work to be done in terms of the service that is provided at store level. In the prior workshop, we talked a bit about testing fragrance and finding the fragrance for you. So when we had the data here that mentioned that it was a small percentage of people that did the video consulting. I think it was like 16% did video consulting, and even though they enjoyed it, they wouldn't pay for it. Okay, and I think that part of that just goes to the fact that there's so much information on the internet that is available that you really can get something without having to pay for it. Unfortunately, but that's the way it is. I mean, maybe it's something else where it's you pay, and what you pay then goes to the purchase of a product. That then there's a clear value with having the service, because then you have something tangible after the fact. Lastly, on the B2C, I wanted to talk about the people who said that they're involved in a community, social community, forums. I think this is fantastic, and it's really much more than I had expected to see. But But again, it's people looking for information, for education, and also just the love of fragrance, that they want to be on there engaging with other people, that they share their passion for fragrance. So this is really a good sign for us, and it's an opportunity as well. Just really quickly, I'll look at the B2B section, and the one thing that really stood out to me was that 19% of the respondents said that they did not have an online site before the pandemic. And honest to God, I hope that if we took the survey today, that number would be 0. Okay, because if this ever happens to us again, you can imagine how complicated life is, and what would your life have been like if you didn't have a computer? So think about, not being able to sell anything during that period. And so I truly hope that number is now 0. The other thing that because I'm running over time, is just, I'm going to say really quickly about the social platforms and communication platforms, that I was a little bit surprised to see that TikTok was such a small percent. It was 4%, which I think that going forward, that number is going to change, because during the pandemic, I don't know if you, like me, have a lot of friends that were sharing videos during the pandemic, but how many TikTok videos did you get? Now it comes to the point that brands are seeing TikTok as a place to advertise. So I know big companies like Estee Lauder, and I think Clarins as well, are on TikTok, using it for communicating with brands. But I think it's a huge opportunity going forward, because it is the social media platform of choice for Gen Z and millennials as well. So that is my closing statement there. And now I hand it over to you, Silvio.
Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone. So I can conclude this part, and now we can start a brief time for question and answer. But I would like to summarize something that was really a sum of what you told. And I think that one word is emotion, and if you want, the other is solidarity. So the point is that according to Marco, according to Karen, according to some other thing, we have a huge opportunity to use emotional concepts that are involved in perfumery in order to communicate, to involve, to teach. And I think that is very, very important. And the other thing was very interesting to me, that only 19% of the people interviewed closed the stores and have no e-shop. And the other thing I love so much, that a lot of them sure, as I am sure, that the e-commerce business in artistic perfumery will grow up, but it will be not capable to substitute completely what is the income in the brick and mortar. And solidarity towards brick and mortar and the return in the stores is so important. But we need absolutely to make more enjoyable the experience. And using also the, let me say, the digital, so the phygital, we have to improve, is to come into the houses, sending samples, sharing information, but inviting people to come back in the environment in the shops, I think. Right? The shop must be experiential. So music, artistic concept, and especially letting the people to better understand the olfactive message. But the other point, we saw that so many people don't know, so the identity is so poor at the moment for that section. A lot of people would like to discover, so school, information, how to do, etc., basic question, and we have to give answer, I think so. But the other thing is the great interest in olfactive kit, we have logistic problem, cost, and etc. So the kits are not a substitution to the purchase. People are declaring that they continue to buy, and the kit is to discover something else. So they are not buying kit instead of final products, but they are very happy to have testing, to discover something else, to possibly add. The fact that some retailers are telling that are increasing the number of artistic brands in their portfolio is also interesting, because especially during pandemic, because investing in something new that you have to promote, that is not very well known, but you feel the interest of your consumer, that is absolutely promising. And I do hope that in the next analysis we will share together, we can register a dramatic increase in interest worldwide. I do hope so. But I'd like to, if some of you would like to come in that, and especially how we can do, in your opinion, better to improve luxury in the niche concept, and what is the identity, in your opinion, we have to insist more on respect to the final consumer, to let them to better understand what is the difference between artistic perfumery niche, whatever you want to call, independent and masstige. I let you, each of you, to tell 3 words, if possible, 3 adjectives. Karen?
To describe artistic niche fragrance, I would say unexpected, innovative, and quality.
Thank you so much, Marco.
Okay, well, I could say Karen was perfect. But anyway, let's say, let's try to find something to substitute quality, because it's quite difficult, I think, to define. Well, I think that creative can be something similar to unexpected. Compared to quality, artisanal is something very, very interesting. That's, for example, in the fashion business, is becoming an interesting word. I'm not sure that exclusivity is anymore a right word. So, well, that's my comment.
Thank you, Chiara.
Okay, Silvio, I don't have 3 words, but I have a 3 concept. Experience, because niche perfumery, artisanal perfumery, make me possible to travel in new time and places, like told us yesterday Annalisa. It is like a DeLorean, back to the future way to return to something that is familiar and new. The other concept is that talks about me. So I can find my smell, my olfactory signature. And the other words I think about niche perfumery is innovative. Is something, when I look for a niche perfume, I look for something that sounds new.
Thank you. May I ask to Alice, or?
Okay, well, I have something, well, quite connected with what Chiara said, and my word is people. Because as we learned just a few minutes ago, well, speaking directly with our audiences is, I think, the best way to learn, to get inspired for knowing what we should do tomorrow and in 1 month and in 1 year. And again, people are the main concept in artistic perfumery, since the product itself in a certain way is chosen by the person, and it creates a sort of connection that people told us you couldn't find with a commercial ones.
Thank you so much. I think that once again, connecting to your words is community. So, you know, the communities seems quite interesting, but should remain in some manner is isolated groups of people that are very involved. I think what we need is how to invest in a proper manner, because sometimes the brands are not so big and they have no big financial support. But using the new system of social network in a proper manner should be accessible, But I think one of our role as essential is also to connect the different groups and community and create a full network that can communicate and create really the word people is so important. So I think that we have in some manner to suggest retailer how to connect with people. We have to suggest the brand how to connect with people, and so it's brand to consumer. And teaching, I don't love to tell teaching, but to share what is the added value really in the creativity, innovation, independent, etc. capability to create, maintaining possibly almost 20–30% minimum of research and development, because artistic perfumery is the source of innovation for the trends of the future. And I think that despite the family we saw in different things, you see that there was a shift between what are actually looking for the consumer and what communication and brand are investing in promoting. That is the new trend. Is an evidence then the sustainability concepts of green, hormone, etc., and floral, they are more close to the concept of natural concept, where the brand are investing the most in that moment, natural ingredient, etc. The consumer in that moment are still following partially the bestseller we created in the past, and we are moving, but it's quite simple to understand that everyone, especially the big company, are investing in everything about natural, not synthetic, and ethical harvest and whatever you want. So we know that that will be the direction, but in that direction, I think, and I do hope that the brand will be capable to be still creative, not doing all the same. Otherwise, we will have a flat proposition of natural. And instead we need to not to copy the nature, but use nature to create something that is not existing in nature. That was the attitude and the artistic approach. And so we are waiting to know what the brand will be able to propose to the public. And I think that is the most important thing. I do hope that that will be, because I remember that we started with Essence 12 years ago. And 12 years ago, the word of artistic perfumery in the world was completely different. We create and we support the community, and we have a lot of work to do to create it, to support the network between the community and creating an audience of people that will share the passion for being involved in emotion. And that is, I suppose, the main role we have, all of us in different areas. We have also in packaging, in fragrances, in approaching the clients in the stores. And that is, and inviting them to come in our store, in our fantasy. That is, I do hope it will be much more our interest and topics. So I think we can close there. If you have something to add, obviously you are welcome, but I think that we ask a lot of patience to our listener, and I do hope that we will meet together, not only online, but surely in Milan, possibly in next March, all together and discussing what's happened, what we was capable to support during this absence. But fortunately, the family is still linked together. Thank you so much to everyone. Thank you. Welcome back in Essence, and follow Essencional, that we will try to maintain connected, all of you, with us. Thank you so much to everyone.
Bye-bye. Ciao.